Okay, so hello, thank you for for joining this open mic. So today is gonna be about project management in IT. Um, so first, I want to talk about like different methodologies for this project management in IT. Then I will talk about one in particular that is Scrum, and I will explain why I took this one. And then I will try to apply this methodology with GitHub and GitHub project, and then show you a little demo about it. So yeah, the motivations for this were like just basically trying to make some continuous improvement about like the workflow, how we work, about the communication and so on, because sometimes there were some little issues. And I came up with these methodologies that I thought were quite interesting. So I thought it would be nice to share it with you and to have it like maybe your feedback to see what's your opinion about it. Okay, so just so real quick for like few methodologies that exist. So the first one is the, let's say, the most common, the most popular is the methodology agile, which is just an iterative and flexible approach to project managements that emphasize collaboration, continuous improvement, and adaptability. And then there is a sub methodology, like a framework for this agile, which is the one we are interested in today, which is Scrum. And it's really it works well for like small teams and frequent communication and inspection, which I think is our case. Like we are not like, usually we not don't work with like teams that are more like 10, 20 or 30 people. So I think this Scrum works well. But just for, let's say, general knowledge, like there's also the waterfall and the Kanban that are also very popular methodologies in the industry. But it's usually cited for like bigger teams, and so that's why I wanted to focus on the Scrum. So what is Scrum? If you've never heard about it, so I just said it's like just a framework for this agile methodology, and it's based on three main pillars, which are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So what does it mean? Very simply, just that, um, and the foundation is trust. Sorry. So yeah, basically, what does it mean is just that there will be like a lot of iteration, that everyone will have to share everything that they have. And uh, one very important point about Scrum is what is called sprint. So maybe you've heard of it. So I will go over it in the next few slides. But basically, sprint is really one of the foundations in the sense that that's what will make us iterate over the project and really apply these pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. I will detail a bit more in the next few slides. And the Scrum team has usually three type of people. There's the Scrum Master, the Product Owner, and the developers. And I will show you in the next slide what all this is. So as I said, usually a Scrum team is relatively small, like fewer than 10 people. Like usually, like the most recommended is 7. So we are not even 7 usually in our teams here, but yeah, at least it's relatively small. As I said, it's not like meant for 20 or 30 people. So the first person, the first role in a Scrum team is the Scrum Master. So he's accountable for the Scrum team's effectiveness. So in other words, he's building the product fast. He's making sure that the Scrum methodology is followed and applied in the correct way. The second role is the product owner, and there is also one per team, and he's accountable for maximizing the value of the project resulting from the work. So he's building the right product. So basically, he's uh, finding the requirements and talking with the user most of the time. And finally, the developers, which compose the rest of the team, and basically they are just building the product what they are supposed to do. Okay, so now just for a small overview of what are the different artifacts in the Scrum methodology. So I will go fast over it because like basically each of these points would need like an entire presentation. So I will just go very quick over it. But if you have questions at the end of the presentation, please don't hesitate. But okay, basically it all starts with the vision. So when you start the project, so what are the goals? What is the product that we need, and so on. And then we will decompose it into so-called product backlog, which are epics and features. So epic would be basically the big solution. So for huge project, we can imagine that there would be several epics. In our case, usually an epic is just the project itself. This epic can be itself decomposed into several features. So features, I guess you know you know what is it, but just basically it's just like some part of the epic that will answer to some needs of the user. Then you can prioritize these features, and then these features you can themselves decompose them into what is so-called user stories. And I will explain this part a bit more in the next slide, what a user story is. But basically, it's just a smaller part of the feature, and uh, that have more explanation, let's say. But again, I will go back to it in the next slide. Then these user stories are prioritized and estimated. So as you can see, you can have some user stories from different features. It doesn't really matter. And we have to calculate what is called a velocity. So as I was talking about just before, like there's something called sprint, and the sprint is basically a milestone that you want to reach. It can be it's like some roadmap. So a sprint can be every 2 or 3 weeks, usually something like this. And the velocity is the number of user stories that you can do during one sprint, and this will be decided at the beginning of the sprint. Like how many user stories can you do during one sprint? This is the velocity. Yes, the user stories are produced during the sprint. And at the end of the sprint, we have what we call a product increment. And basically it works like this. Every sprint we have a product increment, and that's how we move forward in the project. I wanted to go back a little bit more within the user stories in particular. So a user story is a small piece of desired functionality. It must be done within a team iteration. But what is very important, because sometimes it can be really hard to distinguish what is a feature and what is a user story. So a feature is really like a service that fulfills a stakeholder need. So really like what you want to do, but the user story is giving like some context to it. So as you can see, it really needs to follow this syntax. As a user, I want activity functionality, so that I solve some issue. I will show in the demo like a very concrete example, so about how it works. But basically, it's really giving context and rationale to the feature. Why do we build this? And then finally, you can see at the bottom right the task, which is just like even more breakdown to the user story. So this part is usually more to the developers to find this one. Okay, I just wanted to make a quick sum up about all these artifacts. So with like a very concrete example. So if we take like the example of an e-commerce platform, then it's like quite big project, but not so huge. So in this case, we would have only one epic, and this epic would be develop the new e-commerce platform. Then below it would be several features. There would be many. One of them could be implement a product search function. So that's the feature, like the product search function. And then to this feature, we will add a user story, or it can be many a user story. But in this case, the user story would be, as a customer, I want to be able to search for products by keyword, so that I can easily find that I'm looking for. So basically, it's really giving the context to this feature. Why do we need this feature? What is the purpose of it? And then finally, the fourth step is to break down this user story into several tasks. So for the developer, so it will be create a search input field on the homepage, build a search function that queries the database based on the user input, and so on. So I hope this part is clear. And now I just wanted to go over what is called the ceremony. So as I was telling you before, there is this sprint that occurs every 2-3 weeks maximum, and this sprint is break down into several ceremonies, which all of them are mandatory for the members of the team, and yeah, they occur basically always at the same time. So the breakdown is the sprint planning that occurs at the beginning of the sprint. Then you have the daily scrum or daily stand-up, the sprint review or demo, and the sprint retrospective. So the sprint planning, which starts at the beginning of each sprint, is meant to define the goal of the sprint. What are we gonna achieve? So what user stories are we gonna do, and so on. So basically, we present the vision. That's the product owner that will do this. Calculation of the velocity. In the next slide, I will show how to do this, or at least just to have a rough idea about how this velocity is found. And then we will split this into tasks. So as I said before, like the velocity, it's the amount of work that the team is able to do during a sprint. So it's not saying like exactly what will be the outcome. It's really like what we can do, how much resource do we have. And so do we calculate the velocity? Well, usually we can say that we give 1 point per each team member per day of work. So usually for 3 sprint, then each team member will have 12 points because we remove 20% because we consider all the ceremonies where you will not be able to work. So we remove this time. And so you multiply by the number of team members and you will have your final velocity. And then for each user story, for each story, you give a number of points like that you calculate depending on how big you think the task will be. And then you can set up in your sprint how much you will be able to do during this sprint. And that's basically the goal of it, like to really force you to have like these goals and these stories to follow. So then the daily stand-up. So here we don't do it like daily, like more like twice a week, but basically the idea is exactly the same. It's just a synchronization on the team and coordination on what's going on. So what did you do the last time? What are you doing now? What will you do? And we try to synchronize and see like how we can do things together. Then you have the sprint review meeting, which is at the end of the sprint. So after 1, 2, or 3 weeks, depending on how you did your sprint. And you just basically show what you did, if you were able to finish all the user stories. If yes, that's a good thing. If not, why, and then what will be done for the next thing, for the next sprint. And then just a retro after this sprint, just again for continuous improvement. So what went well during this sprint, what went wrong, how can we improve it for the next time, and so on. The last thing in the sprint that is not showed here in this little schema is what is called backlog refinement. So backlog refinement is all the time. It's really depending on you. So if you feel the need that you need to do it, and the idea is just to have like this extra meeting to socialize like with all the features and make sure that everyone is on page and so on. So like it's really extra meeting on demand basically. Okay, so that was for the let's say theoretical part. Now I wanted to show you how to do it in real life, let's say, with the tools that we have. So here on the screen, I just show like just popular tools that exist. So the first one is Gyra, which is a commercial product that is really meant to tackle this Scrum methodology. So like a lot of project managers are using it in the industry. But we use GitHub, and even though it's not meant for the Scrum methodology, I think there's still some kinds of workarounds, and I just wanted to see with you and show you like how I think it's we can try to push this methodology with GitHub projects. So if I take the example of like a GitHub project, like what is called Classic, which is like the way it's usually used GitHub today. I wanted to I wanted to make like a real case example, like a completely new project, but I just realized when I was preparing this open mic that they actually removed the GitHub project Classic. Now there's only this new one that exists that I will show you in the next slide. But still, I wanted to show you how it's done, like how to translate the Scrum to GitHub project. So in our case, usually you will have like the repo itself that will be the epic. Except if you have like bigger scale project, but in this case we can say that the epic is directly the repo or like the project that you link to it. Then if we are still in this case into the project of GitHub, you would have this the feature could be like all the issues that you are creating, and within these issues you can create like a like subtask, like I will show in the next slide here. But then you could ask like, so where are the user stories? Like, because so now we have the features that could be the tickets or the issues, but the user stories would be basically what is inside the ticket. So when you give the description of the issue. So in this case, that would be the rationale. So why do we make this ticket? Also, the task could be like GitHub put this new thing now that you can like create this task, and like you can really visually see like how the tasks are progressing. So basically that's all you can do with this GitHub project Classic. That's it's quite limited into this, and there are some issue with this. The first thing is that you cannot separate the different sprints or the different epics and so on. So as you can see here, there are all the issues related to my project. All the issues are here, and there is no really way to remove them, or it would be quite tedious to do. It's quite hard to see what's going on, and still here is like a small project. It's not so big. Another issue is that if you have several repos, you cannot put all the tickets in the same place, or you can, but again it's quite tedious and it's not really thought for it, and you can really get lost and you don't know what tickets belong to what repo, and it can be quite messy. So that's why I wanted to show you GitHub Project Beta, so which is the newer way to create projects in GitHub. And I didn't see that it's really like known, so I wanted to show with you like a quick demo about how it works. So now I will start the demo. I hope you can still see my screen. So how would we do like this Scrum methodology with this GitHub projects? As you can see here, I just created like a new fake repo. I called it like my e-commerce. You can go in projects and just create a new project. As I told you, like before, it would ask you if you want to use the old way or the new way, but like now I just realized that there is this, I guess they made like an update, and so now it's basically throwing you straight into this new project. Okay, so we can create the project, and the second thing that we can do here is just basically create our ticket. So we can say, for example, that you want search bar, something like this. And here you can just create the search bar and convert it into an issue. And as I told you, you can decide, you can put all the repos that you want. So every time you create a ticket, you have to select the repo you want it to belong to. So here I just say that's my e-commerce and I have my ticket here. One thing that we can do, this is the part that I don't, let's say, like so much, that it's not really meant for it, because I wanted to create a milestone. But as you can see, you have to go, you cannot do it directly from here. Like you have to do all these steps here. And why do I want to create a milestone? Just to represent it as my sprint. So let's say I make my sprint 1, I want it to last 2 weeks. So now in 2 weeks will be in the this date here. I create the milestone. Okay, very well. Now I have my milestone. I can come back here. Here I can have um, more issues. It's not really important, but the important thing is that here now you can just, here as you can see, you have many fields and it's really easy to filter. So here I can add a new field. Let's call it milestone, and now I can link it directly to sprint 1. And basically, instead of having all my tickets, now here I can have only the tickets that belongs to this sprint. And here I can create new views, and I can do the same for sprint 2 and sprint 3. And basically, I don't have to jump between a lot of like places and everything, so I can just see it from here. But if you don't like this view of the table, you can very simply click here and go to board, and now you have the old view with like this board view. But the good thing is that it will still be only filtered with this sprint 1 milestone. So you will have only the tickets that belong to this. So I thought it's a very nice features of GitHub project, especially that here you can put tickets that are from different repo, but that would belong to the same sprint. So here you can really have a really nice overview of what's going on your project. I know here like there's only one ticket, so it's not so easy to see, but you can really add any field that you want. You can even create your own one. You can create like priority, and it would be a number. Okay, and now you can say your priority is 1 out of 5, for example, and so on. So just to show you how it works in like a bigger project already made. So that's the Chesate project where we are working on. And as you can see here, many fields are already existing. So we created a view with only like the tickets that belong to the Chesate maintenance planner with that are sorted by priorities. So here now I can really see like what are the different tickets with their priorities. But I can also see like this React maintenance planner, which is another repository, and I have all its ticket here, so I can jump very easily from one to another. And here I have something called first usable plan manager. So basically it's my sprint. It's kind of my milestone. And here, as you can see, I have all the tickets that are linked to this milestone, but they can belong to several repositories. So here it's really nice to see like what's going on. I can see what is in to-dos, in progress, or what is done from this sprint or this milestone. So again, you can put as many fields as you want. You can put labels, assignés, really like you can create your own. So there is no limit. You can really put whatever you think would be nice for you to view. Okay, so that's it for the demo. I finished for this presentation. I hope it was at least a little bit useful for you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Max. I personally find it really interesting Uh, if any other people have questions, I just wanted to ask if the right demo you were showing with the GSR Techniques project, this is something you are really using the Scrum methodology.
It's not really Scrum because actually this Scrum, like this GitHub projects, I found it before the methodology. I just thought like the tool is very nice. And then I found this Scrum methodology actually just like 2 weeks ago, and I thought it's also very nice, and I wanted to find a way to combine them. Like so for now in the CSAT, it's not really Scrum. It's more like just only like the GitHub project where I think it's much easier to see like what's going on. And I think yeah, the next step would be to push it a little bit more and try to incorporate this Scrum methodology. Of course, not one to one. Like you have to think like what is possible or not. But yeah, I think it could be nice to try to do it like this.
So as far as I get it, it would be just to set up the ceremonies and create the sprints, and that's basically all, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. I've heard about the Scrum like 2 years ago, maybe for the first time, but I've never had time to study it little. So I thank you really very much for this presentation because it explained me something I wanted to read about for quite a long time. So it's fine.
Uh-huh. No, no worries. Thank you. And by the way, yeah, this many of these slides or like this, the materials are from Airbus Helicopters, and that's how they do it there. I have the materials, and, like it's actually much bigger. So if you are curious about more, like just text me. I can send you the materials.